This is Nicholas Six, Chris Cornell, Abject, Desperation. Let us pray. Dear Lord, I wish she was on my side. I wish people took this seriously and saw what we've accomplished. Forgive us our sins. We acknowledge your Son, Jesus Christ. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Before I begin, I just want to say this quickly. This endeavor will be over in 2 days if people do not start supporting it again. I understand people like to sit back and watch this and feel that it's not work and it's just a TV show, but it's not. So 2 days and it's over. We'll see how serious people are. Let us begin. Chris Cornell widow rips probe year after Detroit death. A year after Soundgarden frontman Chris Cornell died inside a Detroit hotel room, the rock star's widow says she is still suffering because of how the case was handled. And before I continue, this is by George Hunter, the Detroit News. Forgive me, George. The 52-year-old singer's May 18 death was ruled a suicide less than 2 hours after he died from asphyxiation from a rubber exercise band in room 1136 of the MGM Grand Detroit Casino Hotel following a performance at the Fox Theater. First of all, a man did an experiment with a rubber exercise band and proved if you're laying on your back, you could still talk with the band around your neck, so that part's bullshit. The part where they talk about it was ruled a suicide less than 2 hours after he died, that part's bullshit because tests weren't even sent in. How do I know that? Because Detroit News reported on it. Mr. Weaver, Investigator Weaver, I use that term loosely, admitted that tests weren't sent in because it was ruled a suicide. Oh, okay. That sounds like a great investigation, right? Vicky Carianis has joined other fans and experts in questioning the official story. Why? Because she wants the insurance money, of course. Allegedly, of course. She claims the medical examiner conducted a botched investigation, leaving holes in the narrative that have spurred conspiracy theorists to make all sorts of false accusations and subjected me to constant online attacks. That's a quote. Now, as far as a botched investigation, Dr. Brown, the medical examiner, has impeccable credentials. I've read them on video. Impeccable. Much more solid than any of your experts that you have, Miss Carianis. This man makes your experts look like a fucking joke. As far as conspiracy theorists, you'll hear that phrase of quite a few times in this article. Now, as far as online attacks, your mother and you are the queens. The queen and princess of online attacks against people. That's what you've done since day one. You've also smeared your husband's reputation since day one, trying to blame it on a drug because you didn't get the accidental ruling that you were looking for. Guess what? You shouldn't have hired a mercenary to kill your husband if you wanted an accidental ruling, because it wasn't an accident. And again, that's allegedly, of course, everything I say. Allegations, conjecture, conspiracy theory. Tinfoil hat shit. Your Honor. So, as far as the online attacks, let me go back and think for a minute. Lily Cornell was called a petri dish baby by your mother, Tony K. Eddie Vedder was called subhuman, not a man. The two of you have been attacking Peter Cornell and Amy, his girlfriend, since day one. They've literally complained about it online. There's literally lately social media evidence that the two families have a feud, and that emails may be released. Emails and text messages. Bet you wouldn't like that, huh? So who's really attacking people online? Who's really using fake accounts? Proven. But again, remember, everything I say are allegations. Everything, not court-decided fact. But just that first paragraph made me realize, because I didn't read this whole thing, I've just been getting messages all day from people that want me to get on camera and talk about this. I do really wish people took it more seriously, though, and supported this. And you know what I mean by supported this. But people have no problem sending me the stuff, want me to talk about it, do they? So yeah, as far as the online attacks, VK and TK are the queen and princess of online bullying, online attacks. This is a pathetic attempt at sympathy, and it reeks of desperation. So if you're asking yourself how effective I am and my people are, here's the fucking evidence yet again. One more time for the 100th fucking time. This has left me and my family still looking for answers. No, you're still looking for the insurance money. That's simple. That's why you called the insurance attorney minutes after your husband's death. That's why you went on a social media campaign the second he was dead. That's why you're on a mainstream campaign now. That's why this desperation-filled article is being read by me on camera right now, because you didn't get your insurance money. That's why you showed up in Detroit with an insurance lawyer trying to pressure a medical examiner with the most impeccable credentials I've ever seen. This has left me and my family still looking for answers, but at the same time set off this whirlwind of conspiracies. No, you mean whirlwind of truth. Because the truth is, again, you're on the phone to an insurance attorney minutes after your husband died. That says it all, doesn't it? You're already a millionaire. That's not good enough? You need that big lump sum lottery win, right? For your little scheme. You're not fooling anybody. You're not fooling anyone. And praise Jesus for this article. And I'm glad I can read it before I end up on the street. I really do. At least it's one last piece of evidence that shows how effective we are. Praise Jesus. I'm going to start again. This has left me and my family still looking for insurance money. I mean answers, excuse me. But at the same time set off this whirlwind of conspiracies, excuse me. She told the Detroit News. Some of the people are just fans looking for answers, but some of them are conspiracy theorists who have said the most vile things to my children and me. You mean like the vile things that your mother says every day online? That's probably why her Twitter had to come down, right? All the threats she made, all the vile comments, like Petri dish baby when talking about Susan Silver's daughter. Or comments like Chris's life didn't exist before he got involved with your scumbag family. Are you kidding me? You people are the masters of online bullying and talking shit. And what's that? The third time the phrase conspiracy theorist or conspiracy was used? Gee, that's not publicist maneuvering, is it? On a first grade level? Among the issues Vicky Karayanis points out is that the Wayne County Medical Examiner's autopsy report states drugs did not contribute to the cause of death, which she said is completely misleading, spawning speculation that he was killed. Well, he was killed. A man did the experiment with the exercise band. That's bullshit. Martin Kirsten had 40 minutes alone with the body and allegedly loosened the band around the guys whose life he was supposed to protect's neck and did CPR with his left hand. So there's nothing misleading. The medical examiner did a great autopsy with the information he had. And I just did a video the other day proving that all Chris had in his system was 2 Ativan, 2 milligram. So the only holes in the narrative are your shite narrative full of fucking lies. And look how desperate you are now. It literally oozes off the screen as I read this. The poor choice of phrasing has misled the public to believe he was of sound mind and body, she said. He was of sound mind and body. Just 2 pills, that's all. Except for the other drug you guys probably spiked his water with or something. And remember, everything I say are allegations. And this word that's here again that I'm about to read, get ready for it. So some conspiracy people, that's 4, maybe 5. I might have miscounted. So some conspiracy people think if Chris wasn't impaired, he would never have killed himself, and so he must have been killed. And then they start getting into the rest of the holes. You mean the holes in your narrative? He was killed, and it's obvious. It's beyond obvious. And this article, I tried to tell you people. I try to give you people good advice. Doing this kind of shit, all it does is scream you're fucking guilty. That's all it does. Well done. Keep not listening to me. It makes it so easy. Internet forums continue to buzz with questions about how the rock star died, with many posters expressing disdain for his widow. Why do they express disdain? Because she's the one who hired a mercenary to have him killed. Allegedly, of course. That's why. Don't have your husband murdered, and you won't deal with the online people saying that you had your husband murdered. Okay? That online harassment has taken a toll, she said. What about the harassment by you and your family? What about the thugs sent after me? What about smearing my name? What about the paid troll campaign that's come to multiple of my channels and my channels being taken down? Straight up censorship. What about that harassment? At least nobody sent thugs after you. You did after me. Allegedly, of course. We're human beings. Are you sure about that? Are you sure? Because you don't seem like it. I didn't see one tear on Dr. Oz or any of the other 5 mainstream morning shows you went on. Not one tear. Are you sure you're human? Because you don't come off as one. We're human beings, said Vicky Karianis, who is married to Chris for 13 years and has 2 children, a 13-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son with him. This is real life. Yes, it is real life. This is what happened. This is what happens when smart people rise up against morons like you that think you're just going to kill this man and get the fuck away with it. This ain't going to be no Courtney Love bullshit again, as long as I have anything to say about it. We're not characters in some film. Exactly. Exactly. Even though it feels like a movie with all the bullshit you people have pulled on me. And my own people have pulled on me. Etc. Even though it feels like a movie, it ain't one. That's one thing you're right about. I lost my husband. No, you hired someone to kill your husband. And this proves it yet again. And remember, everything I say, allegations, conspiracy theory. We're in a lot of pain. We have to deal with these people coming after us. No one's coming after you. They're speaking the truth. You're not in pain. Otherwise, you would have shed a couple tears on all those morning shows you went on. Otherwise, you wouldn't have called an insurance attorney minutes after your husband's death. Admitted in print by you and your weasel lawyer. Admitted it. If the autopsy report was thorough, I believe some of this could have been avoided. The autopsy was very thorough. Down to the nanogram. Can't get much smaller than that. 41 nanograms per milliliter. That's all. 2 pills. That's it. There goes your insurance money. And even the insurance company knows he was murdered. That's why they didn't pay your fucking ass. Praise Jesus. Lisa Croft, a spokeswoman for the Wayne County Medical Examiner, declined comment on Friday and Monday. She has no reason to comment. A medical examiner named Dr. Brown, with impeccable credentials, did the autopsy. There's no flaw in it. The autopsy was perfect. And he reported the drugs in Chris's system and the levels they were at. I guess you guys should have stuck a couple extra ones under his tongue. You messed up there. You also messed up letting him have 5 other drugs in his system, because that's negligence. Ativan's off the hook. But they were off the hook anyway. Why? 41 nanograms per milliliter. That's why. When questions were raised last year about the autopsy, Croft said, "We stand by our cause of death," and you should, because again, Dr. Brown has impeccable credentials. The best credentials I've ever fucking seen for a young man. Vicky Cornell's attorneys retained experts to review the case. I bet they did. And by experts and attorneys, do you mean insurance attorneys? Because that's always what you seem to be hanging out with. A little 4'9" insurance attorney. And that's who you called first after your beloved husband's death. Minutes after. Admitted by you and the weasel lawyer himself. Experts to review the case, including Dr. Richard Cote, chairman of the Department of Pathology at the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. I'd take Dr. Brown over Richard Cote any fucking day, and twice on Sunday. Cote wrote in his summary that drugs likely played a part in the singer's death. Why? Because you paid him? Was there a donation made to the school? Or to his department specifically? I'll take Dr. Brown's word over Cote's word any day of the week and twice on Sunday. There is clear evidence of drug ingestion leading to impaired behavior. No, there's not. There's clear evidence of a exercise band around a man's neck. That's the only clear evidence there is. There is drug ingestion, but there's several drugs involved. So how are we only going to blame one? How are we only going to blame that one drug when it was only 41 nanograms per milliliter? Which equates to 2 2-milligram pills. Mr. Cote? Not too much bias here, right? The drugs that were found in their levels strongly indicate doses that would impair mental and motor function individually, but have much more powerful effects when found in combination. Well, the combination gets Ativan off the hook, and the low levels get Ativan off the hook. The levels were low, Mr. Cote. Very low. Under the circumstances, I conclude that terminal events occurred while under significant mental and motor impairment. Well, the terminal events were a mercenary killing a rock star. That was the terminal event. The drugs had nothing to do with it. Dr. Brown doesn't know that. All he sees is a body on a table that has ligature around its neck. That's all he knows. So as far as I'm concerned, brilliant ruling by the medical examiner. But once the case is looked at more closely, and you realize how much of a scumbag Martin Kirsten is, and why he was hired, and when he was hired, then you realize, and the timeline, and the bullshit like an IT guy coming, as if a guy who's about to kill himself is going to call, have his Apple TV fixed, and shit like that. And if he was so impaired, why does he care about Apple TV? Why is he making phone calls? Total bullshit. A bottle of prednisone, a steroid he was prescribed, was found in the rock star's hotel bathroom the night he died. According to the U.S. National Library of Medicine, the drug's side effects include extreme changes in mood, confusion, depression, and loss of contact with reality. Wow, all that from prednisone, huh? But the medical examiner never tested for it, said Vicky Cornell, who said her husband had prednisone on hand for emergencies in case he got laryngitis and was able to sing. When you find a drug that causes mania at the scene, how do you not test for it? That's a great question, Vicky K. When you take hand swabs of Martin Kirsten and other various tests, how do you not even send those tests in? I know how, because a motherfucker was paid off and the decision was made before he walked in the fucking door, allegedly, of course. So if we want to talk about tests that weren't done or tests that weren't sent in, admitted by Investigator Weaver, and I use the term investigator loosely, let's talk about those tests. The hand swabs of Mr. Kirsten and stuff like that. Let's talk about those tests. Cyril Wecht, former medical examiner of Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, and chairman of the American Board of Legal Medicine Board of Trustees, said, a good lab would have screened for that if the bottle was found at the scene. It doesn't matter. The levels were low in this man's system of all the drugs. And there was a mercenary there. A guy who, when you look at his company description and see the kind of posts they put up on Twitter and stuff about uprisings in Turkey and shit like that, that's the type of stuff they deal with. So they're used to killing people. Peasants that rise up against dictators and stuff like that. That's the kind of people and person we're talking about with Mr. Kirsten and his employees. Allegedly, of course. Always allegedly. Every lab differs, and that drug doesn't usually result in acute death by itself, Wecht said, but it can cause medical problems, and in a complete toxicology screen, you'd want to include that if they knew there was a bottle at the scene. Okay, well, how about a complete investigation, including the possibility of murder? That's why Investigator Weaver would have wanted to send those tests in that he admitted to Detroit News he didn't even fucking send in, because he said it was suicide, even though there's blood spatter and a big pool of fucking blood on the floor. Don't sound like suicide to me. Just by the physical evidence, let alone the drugs in the man's system. According to a Detroit police report, Chris Cornell's bodyguard told investigators he gave the singer a pair of 2 milligram Ativan pills. Actually, that's not what the police report says. It says he gave him 2 sleeping pills. But I always assumed it was the 2 Ativan that come out to 41 nanograms per milliliter. That equates to 2 milligram pills. Just like I said the other day. Which is another reason they're getting so desperate with this article right now. Shit's getting hot. Shit's getting technical and scientific. And it's making them look even worse. And who's behind that? Or who's getting scientific on their ass? A certain cracker on YouTube. But I know he's not worth supporting, right? The night he died, he gave the singer a pair of 2 milligram Ativan pills. The night he died, twice the prescribed dosage. Yeah. Isn't that kind of negligence on Mr. Kirsten's part? Isn't that negligence on Chris's part? As far as the Ativan goes. Doctor's off the hook. Ativan's off the hook. No insurance money, sorry. Because the bottle said 1 pill, not 2. So who's at fault? Not the doctor, not Ativan. That would be Mr. Kirsten. And Chris himself, if he indeed committed suicide, but he didn't. He didn't, we know that. Cornell was prescribed lorazepam, the generic version of Ativan, an anti-anxiety drug with side effects that include suicidal thoughts. The food, yes, but he was below those levels in tests. They show that Chris was below the levels it takes to get to the point where suicidal ideation occurs. That's another video a cracker did way back in the day. Cracker on YouTube. The drug should not be taken for more than 2 to 4 weeks, and that users should be closely monitored. Well, that's why you had a third party hold the drugs, right, Miss Karianis? Martin Kirsten was holding Chris's drugs, so you obviously knew there was a risk. Sorry, no insurance money. He was on the drug for about a year. Vicky Karianis said her husband was prescribed the pills to help him sleep after he tore muscles in his shoulder. The toxicology report also found the singer had barbiturates in his system. They were not prescribed. Weren't we just asking that question? Funny how it's mentioned in this article today. Right after we talked about it. Again, thusly showing our effectiveness. My effectiveness. For the 100th time. Mr. Cornell had drug levels that would cause significant motor and mental impairment, and that the combination of drugs found in Mr. Cornell's system have synergistic depressant activity which would impair judgment, cloud intention, impair motor coordination, and inhibit the ability to physically respond to danger. You mean the danger of having a mercenary attacking you and killing you? That kind of danger? Those drugs might impair you to where you were much easier to subdue and kill in that instance. I agree. That's all hypothetical, though. Conspiracy theory and conjecture. Cote wrote that in his 3-page report. I'd still take Dr. Brown any day of the week and twice on Sunday. I'll take his word. Dr. Nora Volkow, director of the National Institute on Drug Abuse, who appeared on Good Morning America. Uh-oh, that makes her big time. In February, to discuss Chris Cornell's death, said it is very likely he had not been under the influence of these drugs. He would have never done such an act that cost him his life. He didn't do such an act that cost him his life, you paid fucking shills who just want airtime on a morning show. He was murdered. There was a mercenary around, hired to kill him, allegedly, of course. So the drugs don't even fucking matter. But Weck counters that it's not unreasonable to assume Ativan may have contributed to the death, but I don't disagree with the medical examiner here. Did you hear that? But I don't disagree with the medical examiner here. As a matter of scientific proof, you can't know for sure whether taking the drug actually caused the death, so I wouldn't list it as cause of death. That's one of her shill doctors saying that. Vicky Cornell said she doesn't necessarily want the medical examiner to list drugs as the official cause of death, but she hopes there will be a clarification to the autopsy entry. No, what she wants is an accidental ruling so she can get paid. So that statement's bullshit. That's why you showed up in Detroit with the lawyer, to try and pressure the man into changing his ruling. That's exactly what you want. This is a straight up lie. That's why I'm reading this article right now. That's why this article exists. The report stated the drugs did not contribute to the cause of death. That made headlines around